Hi everybody, I want to talk to you a little bit about mutual assistance. Mutual assistance is our fund. It's there to help us get through the tough times.
Our mission is to cut a channel that's 18 miles long through 8 to 12 feet of ice so that the supply ships can resupply the continent.
Going on scene, we're not sure who's on board or if there's any more drugs.
My name is Samantha Constant, and I'm a maritime enforcement specialist with the United States Coast Guard. They told us that there's a possible Asian migrant, so we were sent out to investigate the purpose of the voyage. We have had a couple of people that trying to jump. I had like one guy jumping on me. I was like, I got you.
I know it might be a little scary, but we got you. We're gonna take care of you, okay?
All the knocked over trees, the buildings. It gave me like shivers down my spine.
Always ready, the Coast Guard slogan, means still ready during the partial government shutdown.
You have to serve. That's what you signed up for. You didn't sign up for the paycheck. You signed up for the ability to be able to serve your country.
Today is payday for members of the United States Coast Guard. They will be paid nothing. Unlike other parts of the military, the Coast Guard falls under the Department of Homeland Security, which is affected by a partial government shutdown.
But, during the shutdown, we are still performing our duties like the search and rescue, our port and safety, homeland security missions, law enforcement, and environmental response.
It was getting to the point where it was like, okay, do I need to take a leave so that I can save my money to eat my food, or am I still continuing to go to work and paying for gas every day?
So it's probably one of the hardest things I've had to do is manage 23 people through a period where we had to respond to urgent ATON discrepancies, but yet worry about my people. We were really worried about the safety of my members and all the family members that are attached to Harry Livermore.
Continue to stand tall. Your dedication and resilience through this adversity defines the absolute best of our nation. The strength of our workforce continually reveals itself in difficult times.
And I was in the heat of Hurricane Katrina, and so I went to Coast Guard Mutual Assistance through my chief, requesting funds to pay for that, and I'm so grateful for them.
My experience with CGMA was when my house flooded during Hurricane Harvey. When disasters like this happen, you don't know how it's going to play out, no matter how much planning you did. And I was just in shock at how my money was hemorrhaging so fast. And you all were able to help add some relief in probably one of the most stressful times, if not the most stressful time in my family's life.
I got a call from my mom while I was at work, and she told me that my grandfather, who is like my hero, he's going to hospice. And Coast Guard Mutual Assistance helped me stay there and be there at the hospice with my grandfather until he passed away.
Once my wife was sure that she got all of the bills in, she took those bills to the warrant officer. He went to the mutual assistance, and we were able to get the interest-free loan, and we're able to pay it back over a longer period of time at a rate that wasn't gonna hurt us.
And so our charity is doing our part to save the men and women of the Coast Guard.
Let me just do a toss out about mutual assistance, Coast Guard Mutual Assistance. That is your fund. That is your safety net. We've been working with Admiral Kerry Thomas, retired, who's the administrator. They have secured sufficient funds to put money in your hands to bridge through your personal financial challenges.
Well, obviously we had a great support network of the Chiefs Mess and the CWOA and CPOA, but we took full advantage of all programs that were available to those members, including the mutual assistance loans that were available.
Talking about the government shutdown, we went from a typical day of maybe having 50 cases a day to having 300 plus cases a day. And it did get very emotional at times because we had some service members who were deployed and their family members were still at home and they needed that assistance. But we made sure that we were there to assist everyone. We assisted them as quickly as we possibly could. And a lot of them called back and say thank you. Thank you that that we were here.
There are resources out there, and we can mobilize them And we did. And we have people like First Command and USAA who are extraordinary partners. But how do you make it work? How do you create the art of the possible where none exists? You call the chief.
As the nation observed during the recent 35-day partial lapse in appropriation, our people stood the watch and fulfilled our promise to the American public. Ultimately, this was a powerful testament of our resiliency as a military service, and it indicated the strength of our committed workforce.
It's been tough. Government shutdown. It's been tough. Coming to work, going on missions, thinking about whether or not you're able to feed your family tomorrow, whether or not you're able to provide. It's difficult mentally.
As soon as we opened the door, it hit us. From a sensory standpoint, you could smell the mold in the house. And then we opened the bedroom doors and saw that the ceilings had collapsed.
And we ended up spending 5 days in the truck with myself, my fiance, and her 9-year-old, with 4 bottles of water and a couple of little bags of snacks for 5 days. No food, no water.
I have a scooter. We have a car and a scooter. I pay for monthly. I told her possibly to sell that. So a lot of things we had to cut off because at the end of the day, I had to make sure I had food on the table and at least the roof over their head. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm doing all this thinking about all this kind of stuff from 1,000 miles away, still doing the Coast Guard mission.
We did do a lot of like peanut butter jelly sandwiches for a little bit, but we made it work.
I remain heartened by assistance available to you within the lifelines and by the outpouring of support from local communities across the nation.
How is your relief agency preparing to respond to this situation?
So we've been around since 1924, and our mission is to help the Coast Guard in time of need, and that is truly what our mission is.
I did some college credits and I used it, I think, for 2 years in a row for books while I attended a college in Michigan.
My wife is taking classes to get her master's degree, so we get reimbursed for her books.
I was not expecting all the damage, and it's one of those things that, I don't know, you can't get out of your head, It's like sadness.
I found out I was PCSing early for advancing, which is great, but it seemed like everything that went wrong with that PCS that could go wrong did go wrong. When they handed me a check for my requested amount, I was like, wow.
Insulation everywhere, the floor was wet, the beds were wet, the dressers were wet, everything was molded.
Please share this note with anyone else who was instrumental in making the decision to help me with getting my bumper fixed. Things have been so tough for me lately, and I cannot thank you enough for your help. Thank you very much, Ellen.
But while difficult, we learned that we do not stand alone. Across the nation, communities pulled together to support their Coast Guard, reflecting our enduring value to the American people. Take, for example, Jenna Hall, the ombudsman right here at Sector Los Angeles Long Beach. Jenna coordinated with community organizations to ensure that our members and their families received essential support. Jenna reflects the dedication and patriotism of Coast Guard families, as well as everyday citizens across the nation who directly contribute to keeping our Coast Guard semper paratus, or always ready.
Thank you so very much for the box of adorable baby gifts. We are so touched by your kindness and thoughtfulness. The bibs, onesies, cloths, and mittens, everything is so cute, and we will definitely put everything to good use.
We are proud to say we had 100% participation in the loan program, including myself. I took the loan. Right. Having a little bit of peace of mind, that the houses weren't being foreclosed on, or rent checks were somewhat available, and that people didn't have to worry about how they were going to put food on the table, so we could perform the mission.
Without a paycheck, are you surprised there isn't more outrage over this when it comes to the Coast Guard?
Well, certainly there's been an outpouring of financial support for us. USAA provided a very generous $15 million gift to help us, but we're only doing what we can do in order to provide some paycheck assistance to them.
It is with pleasure that on behalf of the Washington, D.C. Coast Guard Spouses Club, we present this donation. Thank you all for what you are doing.
We saw how much help that we got from CGMA, from the community, from her Coast Guard family during Harvey, that we just paid it forward during that. You know, she was part of the, a group of people that got together to get all those doctors down to Texas City to find specific families that had specific needs.
But instead of stressing about everything, I ended up giving back a lot. I worked at the American Legion and I helped them do a food drive.
And I've also given back myself, and anyone else who has that opportunity should definitely give back as well.
This still has to be a breathtaking situation, Admiral, because I would imagine that if you're talking about a Coast Guard relief agency, you're talking about a few service members at a time who might be in a crisis situation of one kind or another. Suddenly you have the whole Coast Guard in that situation.
We really want you to use mutual assistance, and I want to be sure that you're asking for the financial assistance that you need to get you through. So please get with your mutual assistance rep or go to cgmahq.org to find out more information on mutual assistance.
It saved us financially. It saved us from financial ruin.
And we like taking care of our people. That's the biggest thing about Coast Guard Mutual Assistance.
Just knowing when I was a non-rate, it was pitched to me that the Coasties helping Coasties.
We are very grateful for mutual assistance because of that. So we owe a lot to them.
Coast Guard Mutual Assistance saved me and my family because I was quickly running out of money.
First of all, I really want to thank them for all that they've done for us. They're our front line.
There's a lot that can be done. Local communities can help, businesses can help, and of course your donations to Coast Guard Mutual Assistance, we can be reached at www.cgmahq.org.
Admiral, thanks so much.
Thank you very much.